going to show you how to start your pictogram in Illustrator. So hopefully this will guide you and provide the information that you need to get started here. So you were to download the full folder, and what we're going to do is we're going to actually lock the presentation. I just renamed this. I just double clicked on it, renamed this presentation layer. If you go to your layers window, layers, you can go ahead and lock that once you create a new layer just by clicking right next to that. That way you don't really move anything in there. The second layer, we can put Pictogram 1 as your first layer, okay? And we're going to go File, Place. We're going to place one of the pictures that was provided as one of the pictogram images here. Let's choose, okay, so you're going to do 4. You pick out 4 of these. So let's start out with this one. We're going to place this in here. And you can place this in here larger at first. I'm going to zoom in. And we can always downsize it. Okay, so in your toolbar, what you're going to do is you're going to select the pen tool. Hit P on your keyboard. That goes right to it. Make sure that you have the pen tool selected, not the other tools down below here. Okay. Make sure you have a stroke color. So I'm just going to choose black just for now. No fill. I'm going to zoom in real tight. When you start to use the pen tool, you want to click somewhere in the beginning to start your anchor point. When you click one time, it's going to start the anchor point, and then you have this line that's saying, hey, where are you going to click next? And this is that straight line that you were talking about. So what you're going to do is you're just going to click and hold that click to get a nice curved line. Click and kind of pull that handle out, okay? I'm doing it really fast, so you're going to be a little intimidated by what I'm doing, but it takes a little getting used to and practice. But you're going to click and hold that click down to create these nice curved handles here. And we can always go back and fix this, so don't be like, oh, I messed this line up. You can definitely go back and fix it once we're done here. But what we're doing is we're just tracing as close as we can. You can zoom in if you want even closer together. You don't have to go super detailed in the toes or the face, but try to get it as much as you can in there. So what I'm trying to do is just create this fill. I'm sorry, not fill. Closed shape when I'm done here. Click and drag those curved brazier curves in there, and then I end it by clicking on the last anchor point that I started with. Now I could fill this with a color if I wanted to. So that's using your pen tool. Now if you want to adjust these, say if I zoom in real tight here and I said, okay, I want to get this a little tighter, just go ahead and zoom in on your anchor points and use the direct selection tool, which is the white arrow, to go in and actually click in and drag these points in if you need to, or even play around with the handles. Say if you wanted to get more curve on one side. A little trick here, if you hold down the space bar, you can navigate through your document zoomed in very nicely. See, and then you can always fix this. So just pulling in your handles will fix the curves. It just takes some practice, to get used to the pen tool. It's not a very easy tool to use at first, but once you get it, and once you kind of get the tools and how they work together, the easier it will be. So practice makes perfect. Just keep practicing. So zooming in, getting that detail down is important as well. So you're kind of pulling in these anchor points. The hair is a little tricky, but I would just do like a regular curved head there. Doesn't have to be anything crazy. So I'm just adjusting my points, kind of getting these a little closer. If you mess up, say if you want to take a point out, say, I want to take this out, you can hold down on that pen tool and say delete anchor point, and it takes it out. Or if you wanted to add an anchor point, you can go to add anchor point and actually add an anchor point to it. So there's always that option too. If your anchor point doesn't have, for instance, this anchor point doesn't have the handlebars that kind of allow for that brazier curve, you can choose the anchor point tool, click right on that point that doesn't have the anchor lines, oh, this one actually, this one, and drag it out. As you're dragging it out, it's creating that curved handle, so you can kind of play around with that. So that's what that's for. Okay. So we have our shape here. The only thing is we have this little area we have to tend to as well. So right now in my layers, I have Pictogram 1. I'm on the red layer, and that's fine. I'm going to zoom in here where I need to also make a shape, because this is where it's showing the outline. And I'm going to take care of this area too. There we go. You can also put maybe a little area here if you'd like, if you think that's going to help. Oops. Kind of this area in here. That looks pretty good. All right. So now I'm going to take the full shape. I'm just going to fill it with black. Or you can fill it with white, depending on, actually I'll fill it with white because we'll put it on a color background. And then depending on the color background, I'm just going to make this black for now. You can fill it with that color. Okay, so then what we're going to do is make, you have to do the 4 kind of curved squares. So I'm going to take the square rectangle tool and do the rounded rectangle tool right underneath. And I'm going to make 4 of them. Just big enough. I'm going to hold the shift key down, just big enough so they all fit together. I'm going to do the Alt drag down. Oh, sorry. Selection tool, Alt drag down makes a copy. So I'm just going to make 4 of these right now. And then these can be colored depending on, you know, what colors you want to start, but then center them. So I just made 4. Alt drag makes a copy of them, just kind of FYI. Just make sure that they're aligned nicely. You know, you don't want it to be them to be off. You can go up to your align options, up to window, and you go to align, and you can align these with your align tools by selecting your elements, shift select, and aligning them together. Okay. I'm going to shift select and actually center this on my presentation template. And what we're going to do is we're going to name this on a new layer. We're going to name this squares. And pull this little, see this little red dot still on my second layer, my pictogram layer. I'm going to pull this up. And that will assign my 4 squares to a new layer above here. You'll see the little green, new green color kind of representing that layer. And then you'll see the shapes kind of turn to that color. Hit the toggle lock tool next to the layer so that you're not bothering that layer at all. And then I'm just going to drag this up on top so that this pictogram layer is over top. I'm going to get rid of, delete the background layer. Everything else is locked, so now I just have to go in and select this whole shape that I just did. I'm going to go up to Object and Group. And there's 2 ways you can scale this down proportionately. You can either hold down the Shift key, take one of your bounding boxes, and hold that Shift key down. Don't let go of the Shift key until you're done resizing. Or you can double click in your scale tool in your menu toolbar, double click on that scale tool and size it here uniformly. So you can do like 90% and it can size it down or up depending on what you're doing. Once you have it in there, you know, choose the background color that you want. So I'm going to undo my square here so I can change the color. You know, choose whatever color you think is appropriate. And you can do different colors for everyone. And then I would just change, I'm going to ungroup this, the color to whatever you change that to in the middle space there. In both aspects. I'm going to take the eyedropper tool and just sample that out. All right, so you're going to do that for all 4 squares. So you might have the pictogram 1 as one layer, pictogram 2 as a new layer, pictogram 3 and 4, so that you have more control over that. You can lock your square layer and your presentation layer so you're not, you know, moving that in the meantime. So hopefully that kind of got you, it clarified a few things that you had issues with if you were having problems using the pen tool and figuring out the layers.